It is a tremendous honor to welcome here tonight such an esteemed guest as the Chief of Staff of the President of Israel. The Torah tells us that the land of Israel is ours, not because of the United Nations, not because of the Balfour Declaration, and not because of the San Remo Conference, but because the Master of the universe created the world and chose to give us the land of Israel. When the Rebbe would speak about the relations between Israel and America, you'd often find that the Israeli delegations were maybe a little nervous. Now, this is not my territory, and our guest, I'm sure, will have a lot to say about this. But the Rebbe would often speak about the incredible importance of confidence of the Jewish people when they came to speak to the President of the United States of America. That we don't need anybody's permission in order to inhabit, to dominate and to conquer our homeland. This is our homeland not only because we have friends in the Western Hemisphere. This is our land because we have the Master of the universe who has given us this land. If we come in with that very sensitive shift, then instead of seeking approval, instead of asking permission, we now come in with confidence. We now come into the meetings with strength. And what's so unique and special about our guest here tonight is that she straddles both of these lanes. Our guest tonight is not only an extremely accomplished statesperson, a diplomat, a politician before whom the President of the United States bowed, but she is also a devoted Jewess, a devoted wife, a mother of 12, I believe, and a very observant Jewish woman who, like Joseph of the weekly Torah portion, shows us that yes, we can. You can be the Prime Minister of Egypt and an observant Jew. You can be the Chief of Staff of the President of Israel, and together with that, be an amazing ambassador for God Almighty. Ladies and gentlemen, friends, it gives me tremendous pleasure to welcome to the stage of Chabad Palm Beach Gardens, Israel's President, Chief of Staff, Rivka Ravitz, and Rebbetzin Kanavigla.
Yeah. Let me give you...
Thank you, Rabbi.
Is this mic working? Okay. As many of you might know, from the email that I sent out, for those that read the email, that for me tonight is really such an incredible closing of a circle. For those of you that are not familiar, when the story happened, when President Biden bowed to Rivka Ravitz when she came to visit him in the White House, and I'm sure she'll tell us in much more detail and in much more intricacy about how that story unfolded. Chabad.org reached out to me as a mother at the time, as a mother of 9. I'm now a mother of 11. But at the time they said, can you write an article about what it means to be a mother of a big family? And so I did, and I wrote this article. And a couple years later, I get a message from my uncle, who lives in Belgium. And he sends me a video about Rivka Ravitz. He sends me this video. He says, have you seen this? And I didn't even click to watch the video. I said, yes, of course, I know the story of Rivka Ravitz. And then he said, wait, did you watch it? I said, okay, let me watch it. I click on it, and I'm watching this video, and it's a whole video about this incredible woman, Rivka Ravitz. And whose pictures are they showing as Rivka Ravitz? But me. And so,
do we look alike?
And so this guy who clearly did not read English, didn't understand English, saw the article that I had written about Rivka Ravitz, thought that I was Rivka Ravitz and that was her family, and made a whole beautiful video about her, showing me and my family.
And for years, I really wanted to know who's that lady and who are those children that are at the ages of mine, I think.
It's so funny because I didn't realize that it doesn't even say my name, so she had no way of even knowing who it was. And I, for years, every time I went to Israel, I would ask people, how can I get a hold of Rivka Ravitz? I have to meet Rivka Ravitz. It was like such a crazy story to me, and how it made like it was news in France, this French, news outlet. Anyway, a couple months ago, I see that a friend of mine was hosting Rivka at her shul down south in Miami, and I said, that's it. If anything, I just have to meet her. And it turns out she was here for a very, very short time. It wasn't going to work out, but she said to me, anytime you want me to come, I'll come. So we made it work, and I'm so grateful to have Rivka here because it just feels like this soul connection that we have. There's just something very, very special about having you here. So thank you for being here,
Thank you
Rivka.
for having me. Bruchim hanimtzaim.
And also growing up, I was always very into politics. I always wanted to go into politics. I always thought I'd be a politician. And my father would always tell me, well, you can go work in the Knesset. You can go. And it didn't really work for me because I didn't really want to live in Israel. It wasn't my aspiration at the time. Although if you ask me today, I might have different ideas, different opinions. So seeing Rivka, an observant Jewish woman who is so accomplished of an Israeli politician, is really something so special to me personally, but I know that even on a larger scale, on a global scale, that she's really such a big inspiration to so many people. And I think that the first thing that people think about when they see Rivka is they wonder, how? How did this happen? How did you get into this position in the first place?
Good question. So I was born in Jerusalem, not far from the Knesset, maybe just 2 kilometers far from the Knesset. But until I was 18 and a half, I didn't hear about the Knesset, almost nothing. And then I got married with my husband at the age of 18 and a half. And his father was the head of Degel HaTorah party. That was the ultra-Orthodox party in the Knesset. That very summer, it was 96 or 97, Benjamin Netanyahu was elected for the first time to be the Prime Minister of Israel. And my father-in-law helped him. And as an appreciation, Bibi Netanyahu asked him, which job would you like to take in the Knesset? And he asked to be the head of the Finance Committee. That's a very important committee in the Knesset in Israel. It's the committee that builds the Israeli budget and all the budget of the ministries. And his assistant just told him, I'm leaving office, I'm going to university, and he stayed without help and getting a very important and demanding job. So he looked, and I was looking, I just finished learning. I was learning in Beis Yaakov, and I learned to be a teacher, an English teacher. That was my dream, to be an English teacher. And I even got some small job as an English teacher for the next year. It was at the end of the year. And he was just looking at me and asking, Rivka, would you like to come with me to the Knesset and be my intern? And I said, no, I want to be a teacher. That's my dream. I want to be an English teacher. And even have some small job like a teacher. So he said, how much would you earn as a teacher? I calculated it. It was like 700 shekels. That's like $150 a month. So I said, listen, Rivka, come with me to the Knesset. It would probably be better. And I went with him. I was very young. I was already pregnant with my first daughter. I remember the first day coming into the Knesset. It was like huge. I thought I'll never find my way there. It was like I had to go to the restroom, so I just counted the blocks and I looked at the walls to remember how I should get back to my office. And I felt today, if you come to the Knesset and you need a tour, I could take you to some secret corners, and I know the Knesset better than my home. But then I was really scared, and I went into the finance committee knowing nothing, learning nothing about politics, about public policy, about finance at all. I remember myself taking a lot of papers home, learning all the night long, coming the next day prepared for the committee. And that's how I started. 2 years later, there was a new law in the Knesset that said you can't hire first-degree relatives. So I had to leave my father-in-law, and in the finance committee, there was a plain member of Knesset from the Likud. His name was Rivlin, and he also hired, his daughter worked for him, and she had to leave, and he asked me if I want to come and work for him, and I said yes. I went. I had no choice. And I went to work for him, and after working 2 years with my father-in-law, I already knew everything about the finance committee and about the Degel Torah party, and I knew all those members of Knesset from the ultra-Orthodox party. I had to start and learn everything from scratch because he was the head of the Likud party, and we did it together. We had the campaign for Arik Sharon to become the prime minister in 99 or 2000, I don't remember. And Arik Sharon made him a minister. So at the age of maybe 24 or something like that, I became the head of a minister in Israel. Not many women at that job, not at all religious women there. I was almost the only one, and I already had a few babies at home. So that's how I started. Later on, he wanted to be the Speaker of the Knesset. That's a very important also job in Israel. It's the head of the Knesset. 2 times I ran his campaigns for him to becoming the Speaker of the Knesset. And then at 2014, he decided he's running to be the President of Israel. That was the hardest campaign of my life. It was almost a year. Then I already had 11 children. I just had my 11th. Yeah, I just had my 11th. She was a baby. I'm not sure she was sure I'm her mother. I almost didn't see her. I came home very late in the evenings. Maybe she thought I'm some bubby or some aunt, I don't know, bringing candies that she, if I would come home earlier, so the children will ask, are you feeling good today? What are you doing here at such an age? It was almost a year of a campaign, a hard campaign, and then he was elected to be the president-elect. And I helped a lot. I ran his campaign, so when he was elected, he said, Rivka, this is yours. Choose the job you want. I don't know how, I was 37 years old. I don't know how I dared to, but I said I want to be a chief of staff. And he said, yes, it's yours. So I was the first woman in Israel to be a chief of staff to a president. Wow. That's how it's
Wow, that's quite the story. I guess there's still hope for me. Someone actually recently came to me on Shabbos and she said, Hannah, you have to run for office, right? She said to me, you could help so many more Jews than just the Palm Beach Gardens Jews. You have to run for office. So, I don't know, maybe there's still hope for me.
Try it.
Well, this position as chief of staff took you to a lot of very, very interesting places, and you met with a lot of very interesting people. As we mentioned, you came to the White House on a number of occasions, but you met with President Biden, and I know that for a lot of people in the room here, we really would love to hear about, we get to see what happens in the news. Someone was asking me this morning, what are your thoughts on Venezuela? And I said, I can just tell you that whatever is going on in the news, there is so much that we don't know about. And, in 10, 15, 20 years, hopefully sooner, we're going to find out that there was so much going on that we had no idea about, and not least of which, I'm no politician, but I suspect that a lot of this will also impact, of course, Israel and everything going on in the Middle East. So we know that whatever is going on the big screen is going on much, much bigger behind closed doors. And I'm hoping that you can give us a little bit of insight, give us a little sneak peek as to how that works.
My children asked if I'm going to meet Maduro, and if he will still be in PJs. So I said, I'm not sure about that. Yes, that's right. You know, I'm not in office anymore. I'm in a different office, but I'm not in the president's office. And people ask me sometimes, do you miss it? So I say, I don't miss the hectic days. I don't miss not seeing my children. I miss one thing. I miss knowing everything. I was almost 25 years. I knew everything. We were checked once in 6 months because we knew really big secrets of the nation. And maybe there were 5 or 10 people in Israel that knew so much secrets as I knew. So I missed that when there was a war with Iran, the 12 days war in Israel now, last summer. I could think what I miss, what I don't know, because I knew for so many years, so I could, so I missed that. I missed that very much. So yes, a lot of things go behind the scenes of those meetings. If you just mentioned the Venezuela, that impacts Israel a lot, because in Israel it was such a happy day. People were so happy because it gives some sort of legitimate to Israel to deal with Iran, deal with Russia, deal with very bad people around the world. So people in Israel, and of course the government in Israel, were very happy. That's the reason that our prime minister was the first one, to be loud and to give good words to President Trump for doing this. So there's a lot of things going behind the scenes of meetings. I wanted to share with you a story before getting to the meetings with the White House with Trump and Biden. There was a very interesting meeting we had with some other president of Russia, with Putin. And this happened a few years after we went into office. Maybe it was 2015, 2017, I don't remember. We got a phone call from the prime minister, from the Israeli prime minister, that there were news about country around of Israel. I can't give out all the details, even though it's 10 years ago, but I could say we got to know that there's a country around us selling very bad weapon to some very close Arab neighbor of us. Bad weapon means a weapon that Iron Dome can't recognize, okay? Iron Dome could recognize weapon that go the normal way. But if there's a weapon that goes too straight, yeah. So Iron Dome can recognize it, and we were, and that's a state that Russia has a lot of influence on them. So the prime minister called the president and said, "Could you please travel to Putin and ask him to stop this?" So we called his office and we asked for a meeting, and they said, "Okay, if you are asking, we will get you. We will have you for a meeting, but don't think it will be a state visit." Okay, usually a state visit means that we come in the morning, there's ceremonies, there are to-dos and red carpets and all that, and then there's a working meeting, and then at the end of the day there's a big dinner, again with ceremonies and food and music and things like that. No, Putin doesn't have time, but if it's important for you and we understand that it's important, you could come in for 40 minutes. You have just 40 minutes. So we understood we have to prepare ourselves well. We prepared ourselves very well. We came in with the maps and with the names of the weapon. And they were telling us just 5 people. So we decided who will be the 5. We even brought in an interpreter from our office. We didn't rely on theirs because we didn't know what he would. We brought with us a minister called Ze'ev Elkin. You heard about Ze'ev Elkin? He was a minister, and he's a Russian guy, and he knew Russia very well, so we brought him with us. He was like part of our delegation, and he was supposed to go between Rivlin and Putin. And we came into the meeting, and he was pretty nice, and he even gave us more than 40 minutes. And then he surprised us at the end of the meeting, and he said, "President Rivlin, I want to invite you for dinner." He was not supposed to. We were supposed to go back home. And we were excited. He said, I'll be bringing 5 of my people, so you could bring 5 of yours. And we went back to the hotel, got dressed nice, makeup and everything, came back to the Kremlin at the end of the day. And he prepared a beautiful dinner, 9 portions. Everything was from gold. And he heard there's a religious lady in the delegation, so he brought everything kosher. There was a guy from Chabad standing there telling me that even the wine is kosher. And we sat, and it was like really just 5 from each side. It was so intimate, and I sat so close to Putin, like was me and you, like so close. And at one point of the meal, he asked, I read the CVs of the people in the delegation, he says, and I saw there's a mother here to 11 children. Who's the mother? It was a funny question. I said, it's mine, but it was a funny question because I was the only woman on the table. But he looked at me and he said, oh, it's you? I want to tell you a story about my childhood. And then he started, and he said that he was born in a very poor family. They didn't even have money to live in town, so they were living at the outskirts of St. Petersburg. And he was an only child, and his parents were working very hard, going out very early in the morning, coming back very late in the afternoons. So he found a nice family in the block that hosted him for the afternoons, helped him with homework, gave him food. Something was funny with that family, he says. First of all, they had 4 children. It was not the normal amount of children in Russia those days. It was 1 child, maybe 2. And coming Fridays afternoon, the mother will light candles, and the family will sit down for a festive dinner. And he says, really, we were sitting so close, and he was talking to me, and he said, as I got older, I understood that they were Jews. And I tried until today to treat Jews as best as I could. Today, in these days, it's funny to tell the story, but then it was like, and I was shocked. I was thinking to myself, first of all, what made him tell me this story? What made him? And then I thought maybe this issue of children,
Mother.
family, mothers. Yes, mothers. What talking about a mother? What does to even the most biggest leaders in the world? The most powerful ones, the most dangerous ones, yeah, I believe he's dangerous. Talking about a mother gives him, and he was telling me the story. I remember coming out of that dinner thinking to myself, maybe he made up the story. Maybe he said, I have to look for topic to talk, and I see a religious woman and with 11 children. So I called the Chabad rabbi of Russia.
Rabbi Lazar.
Lazar, yeah, I called him and said, yeah. It's a true story. I know the story. I even know the family, and it's a real story. And I was like, wow, like I was privileged to sit there and hear that story from him. So yes, so there's a lot of things going. You don't hear them on the news. When you are in those rooms, and a lot of things become very personal when you know people. From first.
Yeah, I remember last year at our golf event, Trump came to our golf event because we had a hostage there, and he came to see the hostage. And there is something people ask me all the time. They say, "So how was he on one-to-one?" And you know what? It's very, very interesting because I think it's very easy to talk big and whatever when you're in front of a screen, right? But when you're one-on-one with a person, something happens that you just soften. And there is definitely something about mothers. Today Rivka sent me the article of what I wrote in Chabad.org. She says, I can't believe this is the first time I'm reading it. I just read it. It's the first time. So I said to
tears
myself,
in my eyes, really.
So I said, you know what? I better reread it. I don't even remember what I wrote. It was like 4 years. It was 2021, I think, right?
Yeah.
So it's 4 years ago, almost 5 years ago. I said, I better reread it. So I sat in the Publix parking lot. And I'm like, I'm going to read my article. And actually, the closing line of that article was not verbatim, because I don't remember exactly, but something how society ought to change the way that they look at mothers, and perhaps then it'll be every day that people will bow as Biden did. That was the closing paraphrased. But it's really incredible when you think about someone like Putin and how just the thought of his childhood and his mother or a mother figure and what that does for him. But even more than that, I'm just thinking of this Jewish family who had no idea who this little boy is and how they showed such kindness and how that impacted the entire Jewish community so many years later, and how every single one of our actions, we have no idea how anything that seems so insignificant and so small can really be something so big and so impactful in a way that we would never have any ideas.
Right.
So going back to Biden, and I know you told me that you also met Trump a few times.
Yeah, I did.
I don't know if it was during his administration or...
Yeah.
It was.
He came to Israel to move the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. That was amazing. We had a big event, a big ceremony, and we were those to host him because the president hosted him. And I must tell you, it didn't work according to protocol. Nothing of it. Like it was usually when you have meetings with presidents. So the guest sits on this side and the host sits here, and we, the Israelis, we sit in a line over here, and his people sit in a line over there. And the talk is between the presidents. And just if they need something like a map or a name of something, so they call you like, what's the name of that? And I come quietly, but he got us into the, we were like all involved, and he was asking us, he was talking about moving the embassy into Jerusalem and talking about, and then he, like out of the blue, I don't know, do you think we could divide Jerusalem into two? Oh, you're asking me? I missed, how should, I know what I think, but I have to talk before two of the presidents. Like I said, no, you can't. Do you think you could divide New York into two? Like I just had to answer him, but so he was like out of protocol. I'll show you a picture with him. I'm running it, and then I'll go back. Oh, this is him. So we were. He tried to shake hands with me, and I told him I can't shake hands, and we also had a conversation about that. And then we sat down for the meeting, and it was like really interesting. And I kept in touch with his staff, with a few of them, really close. And then when we needed something, I could just send them an email, and they will answer me in 10 minutes. Jared Kushner, and more people from his staff, if I just send an email. And that comes again back to the personal, if you have personal contacts with people, if you have the way to talk with people, it's really very important when running a country, especially a country as Israel. You need things from other leaders, you need the contacts you need. So I kept those contacts. After meetings like that went good, and there was a good environment, I just asked, could you please give me your email? And I will send an email. And then when I need something, even with Arab leaders around of us, that's even, it's more hard because we don't have embassies, we don't have connections, we're not supposed to. Even with those, I would keep contact. I would sometimes even go very far to drink a coffee with someone, just to keep
personal relationships between us. And when we needed something, I could really call almost each one of them, and they will answer me. Which brings me to a really important question, which is, we see, and as we've seen over the past 2 years, how much how much Israel is so reliant on America and is so careful not to do anything without explicit permission. But we see that, Israel was most respected when they did things without permission, like Entebbe, or when they just, would do things because that's what's going to keep them safe. But nobody really respected Israel more after the Oslo Accords or after the Gaza disengagement. And in general, it is our belief that the world respects Jews who respect themselves. As soon as we start showing fear and insecurity, that's when we lose our credibility. So what do you think about that importance, about this alliance and this partnership, but more importantly, the neediness of needing to get permission from the American president before they do anything?
So it's a good question because it has two hands to it. We need permission and we need the American president with us, so we have to be careful. But as you said, sometimes we feel that for our very staying alive, we have to do something, and we can't always ask, because sometimes when we ask too many people, the rumor spreads out, and then it's not a secret anymore, and it doesn't work anymore. So Israel had to do some of its biggest
Missions.
also during the last war. How you say beeperim in Hebrew? We say
Beepers.
Beepers. Yeah.
That's the actual American word. It's
Yeah,
English.
beepers is an American word.
Yeah.
Okay, so no one knew about that
Yeah.
mission. We just did it because there was no choice. We had to, and that brought Lebanon and Iran and our neighbors to be very scared. Arabs, I want to tell you, Arabs, when they think someone is strong, they get scared. They get like a puddle. We have to scare them. And the only way we could do some of those things is with no one knowing. No choice. So we have to go very carefully between those two. Once we need the American president, we want him with us. We don't want him angry, right? So we have to ask permission usually. But sometimes we have no choice and we don't ask permission. And I think he respects it. He understands that if we didn't ask permission, probably we couldn't. And usually we get along with it.
So even if he says publicly that he's disappointed, really behind closed doors, he's actually happy.
Usually. Yeah. I can't give out all the details, but usually, yeah. So sometimes people like me, chief of staffs, people on my job, are sent to my colleagues just to give some clue. You know, something is going to happen. We can't give the details, but. And then when it happens, so we could say,
We let you know.
yeah. So we'll let you know. Yeah. So sometimes they used me also.
So we actually just saw last week that Netanyahu met with Trump for the 5th time, I think it's been, which is more than any president has ever met with Israeli prime minister. Which does that say something for the Israel-America relationship? And how do you?
First of all, I hope it doesn't say nothing about another war with Iran, because I don't have patience anymore for my baby sleeping with me in the bed for 2 years. We were talking about it here before. We didn't get a whole night's sleep for 2 years. Most of them came from Yemen, but also Iran were very bad. So I hope it doesn't say anything about another campaign. But yes, it says that the relationships are very close. And I think Netanyahu, people ask me, how is Netanyahu as a leader? I think he is amazing because he knows to do that, to keep in touch and to keep that close friendship, relationship with the American president. And so he had a mistake when Biden became the president, so he had to congratulate him. He didn't have any choice. He was a president. But then when Trump was elected again, he was the first one to go and to congratulate him. And he really knows how to find the way for personal, and it's always personal relationships. Really,
real politician.
Yeah.
Right? Real politician knows how to connect with anybody.
At the end, that's the secret. That's the real secret. It's personal relationships between people. And I saw it from behind the scenes in very close rooms. It was with Putin, and it was with some Arab leaders, and it was with Obama and Biden and Trump. They had to get to the very close relationship, personal relationship.
So we're going to get to more about this particular topic soon, and we're going to open the floor to questions. But in the meantime, before we do that, Rivka has some really fascinating stories of not just being a woman in politics, Israeli politics, but we like to use the word observant here in the shul. We say religious is a dirty word. We say observant because we all observe in our own way. The word religious is very scary to a lot of people.
I'm sorry.
So we say observant. We all observe.
Good.
Oh, ultra-Orthodox. There's no such thing as ultra-Orthodox. Ultra-Orthodox, two together,
What's that?
whatever. Anyway.
Too much.
Observant, exactly. We're observant. So Rivka is an observant woman, and in the position as the chief of staff of the president of Israel, she got into some very, very interesting situations. I know around here, whenever people want to shake my hand and I tell them, I agree with my heart, and they always get so uncomfortable when I tell them, trust me, it happens all the time, every single day, multiple times. And I explain to them, nothing personal, but this is just me in my little world over here. But Rivka has some really, truly incredible stories that I'd love for her to share with us.
Thanks. So as I said, at the age of 37, I was the first woman in Israel to become the chief of staff of a president in Israel. And that opened a lot of opportunities. We traveled a lot around the world, and a lot of, I won't say problems, but challenges, okay? Let's say challenges, that's a good word. Challenges. Sometimes I would sit in a very beautiful state dinner. People were eating a meal that probably cost 800 euros each, and I can't eat anything. Sometimes I was very hungry. Sometimes I was pregnant and very hungry. Sometimes I was even, and the mostly I could eat was an apple from the kitchen. I was asking for an apple. Sometimes I remember myself going back to the room in a beautiful hotel. They host presidents in the most beautiful hotel of the city. So I'll go to a beautiful room in a beautiful hotel after starving for 2 or 3 hours, eating some noodles that I bought in the grocery in Israel for 2 shekels. So I was so hungry, I didn't wait for the water to boil. I just opened the hot side of the water and just put the noodles and ate them. And sometimes there were challenges with Shmirat Shabbat. If I would be, let's say, we was once in Singapore and we were staying at maybe 38th floor or something like that, and I wanted to go daven, and I don't use elevators at Shabbat. So I went down, but I couldn't go up so much. So I just stayed at the lobby for 5 or 6 hours until Shabbat was over. There were a lot of challenges around Shabbat and kosher food. And probably the main challenge was about shaking hands with men. According to halacha, I don't shake hands with men that are not from my family. Once we were invited to the Vatican. Also, we had an issue about some piece of land between Jericho and it was called the land of Munstries. We wanted to build a big tourist project there, and we needed permission from the Palestinians, and we were told that the Pope has a lot of influence on the Palestinians, and we should ask for a meeting with him, and we will get a letter from him, and that will help Israel build that project that was very important for the Israeli government. So we asked for the meeting, and they were telling us, listen, the Pope, he meets heads of states just once in 2 months or 3 months. So we waited, and we got the meeting, and we were pretty excited. We were prepared. The Prime Minister came into our office and was preparing us, giving us examples and all the knowledge and the papers and the maps. And the Minister of Foreign Affairs came in and was giving us. And when we got to Rome, so we were sitting in the hotel, and our 2 ambassadors came to give us Israel has, I believe each country has 2 ambassadors because the Vatican is a separate, totally separate state.
Country.
In Rome, it's they have a separate prime minister, a separate police, separate state. So the 2 ambassadors came into our office, into our hotel, and they were giving us details about the meeting. And they were going scenarios. If the Pope will ask this, so answer that, and if he won't, so don't bring that to the table. And at one point, the ambassador to the Vatican, he took his computer out and he was showing us how the meeting would look like. He told us you will be going around the gardens for 15 minutes, and then you will go inside, and very high ranked cardinals will escort you through the halls. And when they leave you, you are at the last hall. Just cross that hall, the door will open, and the Pope will be there. Each one should shake hands with the Pope, give a small bow. You'll get a present from him, and then you could go into the room, and the meeting will start. At this point, I stopped the ambassador, and I told him, listen, I don't shake hands with men. Usually I do bow, and I apologize. And I explained myself, but I knew he would be wearing a cross, so I didn't want to have to bow. So I told him, please prepare his staff and tell his chief cardinal that I can't shake hands with men, and I won't be shaking his hand. He shouldn't be insulted and nothing. So the ambassador said, no problem, Rivka. I'll tell him he can't shake hands with men. Everything will be okay. He's a religious person. He will understand, and it will be okay. The next day comes, and we go down to our black vehicles, starting traveling to the Vatican. And I just double-checked and asked the ambassador, Mr. Ambassador, did you tell him I can't shake hands with the Pope? And he said, I'm sorry if I forgot. I just forgot. You know, I was so busy yesterday because of you, and I forgot. But listen, Rivka, this is such an important meeting. You can't ruin it. Just call your rabbi and tell him if for just one time you could shake hands. So I didn't want to do that, so I didn't call my rabbi. And I just went on, and we went into the cars, and we traveled to the Vatican, and we went around the gardens, and went into the building, and they told us to stand according to our rank. The president stood first. I stood behind of him. And my staff stood behind of me, and the cardinals stood with us and just started taking us down those halls. And I started getting very nervous. And I was like shaking. I was davening and saying, maybe he won't send out his hand. And the last hall came, and the door opened, and the president shook hands with him, got his present, went into the room, and he did send out his hand to shake hands with me. So I just did this, and I told him I'm really, I shouldn't say religious.
No, it's okay, whatever you said to the Pope.
Ultra-Orthodox.
Don't change the words you said to the Pope.
I said I'm ultra-Orthodox, and I don't shake hands with men. Oh, do you? Is there someone still keeping that? Oh, I can't believe it. If each one of my staff got a split of a moment with the Pope, I'd have 5 minutes with him, explaining him about the ultra-Orthodox community in Jerusalem, and people still keeping things like that. And at one point, he himself did this to me. He bowed, and someone took the picture. And when I came back to Israel, it was like I had maybe 700 phone calls and WhatsApps, and everyone was that true? Did that happen? And again, I felt that personal relationship when I talked with him, and I just explained him. It made all the environment pleasant, and the meeting was so good. We went out of the meeting with the letter we wanted. I don't say it was because of me, no, not at all. But it was so. I didn't felt compelled. I didn't felt bad.
That's about Jews that respect themselves. When Jews respect themselves, and they're not insecure, and they're not shy, and they say, this is who I am, these are my values, this is what I stand for. Guess what? Even the Pope bows to them.
Thanks. So that's again a point that I felt that if you explain yourself, and if you get again into the personal connections, it works. So that works for me too.
So now let's go to the story that happened with President Biden.
Yeah,
Ready
of
for
course. So this happened at the end of our term in the president's house. In Israel, a president is elected for 7 years, and that's it. He can't run again. It used to be 5 and 5, and then they realized that he becomes a politician and he's busy with running after politicians. So they made a new law. It's an old one that it's one for 7 years, and that's it. So we were there for 7 years, from 2014 until 2021. And at the last few weeks of our time in the office, we got a phone call from the White House. President Biden is inviting President Rivlin to say goodbye. And we were pretty excited. He was new. President Biden was new. No one knew him. We were the first Israelis to go and meet him. And there were rumors like, maybe he won't be nice to you, maybe he doesn't like Israelis, maybe he's tired, he's old. No one knew. It was only, and we went to the meeting with knowing that we don't know. We again prepared ourselves. Before meetings like that, between presidents, there's a lot of preparations. The prime minister comes into the president's office, again with lists of we were asking for a weapon. You for sure know that America sells Israel not only airplanes, a lot of sort of weapon, and we usually want to be at the top level of. So we know we have to ask for that. So we come with the names, and we come with the numbers, and we come with the maps, and we have a lot of preparations for meetings like that. And also, some of my staff was so excited they went to buy new shoes, a new dress. Like it's all the preparations, all kinds of. And we traveled to Washington, and we came here, and I already met a few presidents before. I met I met also the King of Britain and the King of Spain. I met Obama, and I met Clinton, and I met Trump, as we said. But even though it was very exciting, it's always exciting to come to the White House, to be invited to the White House. And we were checked for security, maybe for 2 hours. They checked us, and then they don't let you out of the room. You have to stay in one room, and we all go to the White House in one car. Big car takes us, and the 5 of us that are invited to come into the meeting go into the house, and the others go to the yard to wait with the journalists and the television. And we went inside, and I found it as I remembered it from Obama days, from meetings before. The same curtains, the same pictures, the same carpet, everything. Even the cookies were the same. Big, tremendous chocolate chip cookies, not the same. She told us that every morning they cook them, they bake them for the guests of the day. And there were the candies, M&M's candies, that the president was signed on. So I had from Obama, and I had from Trump, and I had from Biden too. And we were waiting. I'm not sure he was so busy, but he let us to wait, maybe 15 minutes we were waiting. And at one point, his protocol lady came to us, and she said, "It's your last time, President Rivlin, in the White House as a president. I'll let you go into the president just by yourself." In Hebrew, we call it Arba Einayim, 4 eyes, a tete-a-tete meeting, a private meeting. And we were excited, and he said, "Yes, I'll be happy to." And the door opens, and Biden calls him in. And he sees, President Rivlin sees that the American protocol lady is going inside. So he said, "Rivka, try and come in with me." And I tried. And I found myself standing in the Oval Room just with the 2 presidents, me and that lady and 2 presidents. And the room is really oval, you know. It has a door coming in and a door going out to the yard. And he was so nice. We were afraid he won't be nice. He doesn't like Israel. He hates it. He was nice, and it was just a small conversation like, "How's your wife?" and "How's your wife?" and some an environment conference was that week, so talking about the conference. And then he looked at me and he said, and who's this lady with us in the room? So Rivlin said, that's my chief of staff. Her name is Rivka. So he tried to be nice and he sent his hand out to shake hands with me. So Rivlin said, no, don't try. She doesn't shake hands with men. And guess how many children she has? I don't know why he said that, but he didn't give him time to guess. And he answered by himself and said, Rivka has 12 children. Then I had already my 12. Rivka has... Do you? He's joking. Tell me he's joking. I said, oh, I do. I can't believe, oh, my mother should meet you. She admired large families. Oh, she should, I want to tell you a story about my mother. But first, he says, I have to get down on my knees for a mother of 12. And as he said that, he just went down. You know, people were joking. He fell. He was too tired. No, he just went down his knees. He was wearing a new blue suit. I was afraid something will pop. I said, no. He went down, and he came up, and he was very like a gentleman. And my computer is going out of power. But, okay, let's see if it would still have a few moments. And he went back up on his feet, and he took us to the other side of the Oval Room. And guess what the president of the most powerful state in the world holds on a shelf in his working room?
Picture of his mother.
A picture of his mother. A picture of his mother. And he took down the picture from the shelf, and he was telling us a story. He was laughing. It was not such a funny story, but we had to laugh with it. He took the picture down the shelf, and in the picture we saw a very short lady wearing an elegant red dress, standing between two tall men. One was Biden himself and one was Obama. And he told us that this picture was taken on the day that Obama was supposed to be the president and he was appointed to be the vice president. And he tells us that at one point Obama was so excited, he froze. He couldn't go on. He was like, so his mother slapped Obama on his shoulders and said, come on, boy, I'll take you on. And that made him awake, and the ceremony went on. And he was laughing, so we laughed with him. But I remember standing there. It was splits of moments, and a lot of thoughts came into my mind. Again, the thought about what a mother does to a child, what a picture a child saves with him, even at the age of 75, even at the age of 80, even when he's the president of the most powerful state of the world. And I had another split of a thought. It has nothing to do with politics, but if it's okay, I'll tell you. My Bubby, she used to live here, not in Florida, and in New York. And the day after the 6 Days War was over, she took her children and they made Aliyah and moved to Jerusalem. And they were very wealthy here. They had a big company of coats. And in Jerusalem, they were not wealthy anymore. And always we asked her, Bubby, why did you move? And she said, I heard that chinuch, okay, education in Jerusalem is better. Jewish education in Jerusalem is better. So I decided to leave everything and take my children to get better education in Jerusalem. But she always admired the American presidents. Even she copied this wallpaper from the Oval Room and had the same, really this exact the same piece at her kitchen. She admired president, and she admired me working for the president. She was going around telling her friends, "Oh, my granddaughter is running the president's house," and I was telling her, "Bubby, I'm not running the president's house. I'm just helping him." She wasn't, and she passed away a few months before this happened, and I just thought to myself, if she would know that the President of the United States went down on his knees, not because my name is Rivka, not because I'm a chief of staff to a president, he sees tens of them a day, just because I decided to devote my life to the value of a big family, to the value of keeping my values and not shaking hands, and that made him go down on his knees. And who taught me that? My Bubby. she left everything behind her and came to Jerusalem because she wanted good education for her children. So at those splits of moments, I thought about her, and that came back to me.
Yeah, you know, one of our favorite songs we like to sing years ago. Yeah. We used to sing it all the time. I know Rabbi loves this song. Is Who Will Be the Zadis of Our Children? It's a song about the Zadi. You know, our Zadi used to live with us, and how the Zadi kept the Judaism at home. And the Zadi is the one who brought Shabbos and brought the holidays and brought Torah study. And then after Zadi passed away, the holy books disappeared, the Kiddush cups disappeared, the Shabbos candles disappeared. And now I look at my grandchildren and I think, who will be the Zadis of our children? Who will be the bubbies of our children, if not we? So that's quite the note to end off with, Rivka. But I do want to open the floor for anybody that would like to ask a question. You know what, Rabbi, I think you're going to...
You'll take the questions, yeah? You want one of
Here,
these?
you're going to answer
we'll
them.
Share. I'll answer by myself.
Oh wow, that was amazing, Hannah. Well done. That's super. What we're going to do is we're going to keep it moving quickly. So we're not asking for, if you have a short question to say, that's great, but not a story, not a statement, just a question. Joe.
Just a fast question. I want to know how you managed to raise 12 children, doing everything else.
I'm going to repeat the question. How did she manage to raise 12 children whilst running the country?
That's an easy question.
I think the answer is in the back of the room.
Yeah, because that's the question I'm always asked, and I always say it's my husband. Usually he's not in the audience, but today he's here. So he's
Round of applause for the husband. Yeah. What's his name?
Yitzchak. Yeah.
Yitzchak.
He himself is a politician. He's a mayor of our town where we live in Telstone, and really he was not only my help, and he gave me, for sometimes I would come back. You should understand, when I started the job, I was really young, and my staff were mostly older than me, all men, all were already ambassadors or very high
Experience,
and also from the IDF high generals, and I had to, they were my staff. And sometimes I would come back home from the office and I would say, okay, that was my last day at the office. I'm not going back there tomorrow. And he said, okay, you know what? Just go for one more day and then we'll talk. So
one more day.
It's amazing that your husband was able to do that in Chicago. Yitzchak, he's the mayor of Telstone, which is a city that when you're coming up to Jerusalem from Tel Aviv, it's on the left-hand side.
We'll have to come visit.
Tel Stone, that's where he's the mayor. Mark.
Thank you for riveting and revealing talk. I certainly enjoyed it thoroughly. Quick question. I might be presumptuous, but I don't think most of us know a lot about the internal workings of the Israeli politics. How significant is it that you don't have a constitution?
Should I repeat the question in case you didn't hear it? The question is, how significant is it that Israel still has no constitution? Is that meaningful?
Oh, it is. And the reason is because of the ultra-Orthodox community getting bigger and bigger, and we don't want the Constitution because it has a lot of problems in. But on the other hand, I used to work for 2 years for the JPPI. Did you hear about the JPPI? It sits in the Hebrew University, and we were working on a constitution. We called it a thin constitution, chukah raza, okay? Because we understood that we can't. It's a big problem in Israel: state and law, state and religion,
Church and state.
Church and state, you call it here, okay? So that's a big, tremendous problem in Israel. We didn't want to go into to that issue, so we prepared a constitution and we called it a thin constitution. Maybe it would work. It didn't come to the Knesset yet, but it's mainly the main problem is religion. The problems of
Shkaya.
yeah.
Velvelazer, Warren.
Again, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Just wondering, since you didn't have a 9-to-5 desk job, you were here and there all over the place, how did you arrange your schedule to be where you needed to be bring in Shabbat.
I'm going to repeat the question. How
Shabbat.
could Rivka have managed her schedule to be consistent with her Jewish values of keeping Shabbos when she was in such important state representation trips?
So in Israel, it's not so hard because the president of Israel, he can't be in Chalal Shabbat before Hesia. So even if we had to, usually we try to come back home before Shabbat. But if sometimes we couldn't, and there were, conferences that we had to take part of, so we couldn't be in Chalal Shabbat. So people came to the hotel to meet him. From the minute Shabbat came in until Motzei Shabbat, we won't drive a car, we won't do meetings out of the hotel. So that was not so hard as you think, as you see. I know I had a very good friend of mine that used to work with Biden and Neuberger, and she had really, it was not easy with Shabbat, so my challenge was easier. Shabbat, the Israeli president, the Israeli prime minister are not allowed to be Mechalel Shabbat out of the room. So, good
That's
question.
remarkable. The Israeli president himself is not allowed by law to violate the Shabbos in public.
Publicly.
So that wasn't so difficult for
So
Rivka.
that helped me. Yeah.
Wow.
Can you do it in private?
Yeah.
He could do
He
it.
can do whatever he wants. but
Anyone
he
could do
cannot-
whatever they want in
he cannot-
private.
He cannot schedule meetings or travel on Shabbos
He
because
can't use his official car. Yeah. I think even ministers can't.
It's very
They
interesting.
could go out with the private car, but they can't use the state.
That's really interesting.
Any other questions? Myrna.
Trump is going to be receiving a major award from Israel. How is that perceived in Israel, and how do you think that's perceived in the United States?
I'm just going to repeat the question. In the recent meeting in Mar-a-Lago, Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu announced that President Trump was going to be receiving the Israel Prize, which is one of Israel's highest prizes. I think it's the first time ever that a non-Jew or non-Israeli
Israeli.
Wow.
non-Israeli is receiving this prize. Myrna's asking how that is perceived in Israel and how that's being perceived in America.
People in Israel love Trump, and they feel that they owe their lives to him, especially after the war in Iran, when he sent those B-52, it's called, to bomb the nuclear weapon of Iran. We were in a big threat, and we were not sure he would do that. So, people really feel they want to give him the prize, and most of the people, at least the people I know, are very happy with that decision. Of course, you have always, those sad people that have, but most of the people in Israel are very happy with this.
Brigitte.
This recent thing in Venezuela, I'd like you to say how it affects Israel, because we happened to hear a lecture that Hezbollah had bases in Argentina, in
Venezuela.
and that the drug money was going to terrorists. And so I think many Jews are critical of Trump, maybe, for going into Venezuela, but it's actually very beneficial to Israel, from what I know.
So the question that Brigitte is asking is the invasion of, the capture of President and Mrs. Maduro seems to potentially be something connected to Hezbollah, who has army bases in Venezuela. What is the impact of the Venezuelan operation on Israel and perhaps Israel's involvement, if at all?
No, I don't think they were involved, but it has a lot of impact. First of all, Israel was very happy, and they were the first ones to congratulate, because it means we could take care of people that work for terrorists. But also, and Israel was all in. Netanyahu was the first one and we were all very, very happy. Saying that, I must say that we have friends in Brazil, and we have friends in Colombia, and we have embassies there, and they are mad at us that we were all in with Trump. So we have connections, bilateral connections with those countries. But even though People were very happy. The government was very happy. And always taking care of people that help terror is good for Israel, for sure.
Raviv,
What's the point of sending the president of Israel to deal diplomatically with other nations, given that he has no real political one? I mean, is it kind of like the king of England?
Yeah, that's the way they share the work. The prime minister works into Israel usually, even though Netanyahu does a lot of work outside. And the president goes and does the bilateral work, the international relationships. That's how they share the leadership. The Israeli president, he doesn't run the army. He doesn't run the ministries. He runs the diplomatic channels and bilateral relationships. That's his job. Saying that, Netanyahu took a lot of it to himself. So today, I don't know how much Herzog does by himself and how much Netanyahu does. But in the days of Rivlin, most of the diplomatic work he did.
Elaine.
Do you see progress since the incorporation of some of the Haredi army units? Do you see some progress in easing the, I don't want to use the severe word, but the dislike between the Haredi population and the secular?
Elaine is asking a very personal question to Rivka, because Rivka is from the very observant community, and she's asking if the relationship between observant Israelis and non-observant Israelis, or less observant Israelis, is improving as a result of observant Jews becoming more involved in the army.
So, the relationships in Israel between the Haredi community and the secular community are not good. They were very bad before the war.
October 7th.
Before October 7, they became a bit better at the first 6 months of the war, and then we became again Israelis. So I have no too good news about it. We like to fight and we like to hate each other. So the army is just, another reason to fight about. It's true that there's a progress, and a lot of young Haredi boys do start going into special units, Haredi units. But I can't give you good news about it. It's not good. I don't like it.
Sol.
I don't know whether you know it or not, but when Entebbe happened in 1976, the Knesset ruled against the planes to go to Uganda because it was Shabbos. And they had to convince the Knesset, we can't wait until...
The army had to fight to the Knesset in order to say that it was saving lives. Pikuach Nefesh, they had to save lives. I think it wasn't the Entebbe raid after, it was on Sunday morning. So they had to fly on Shabbos to get there. To save a life, of course.
So I didn't know that. I was just born in 76, so I learned something. I came here to learn. Thank you all.
Yeah, Jeremy.
Thank you.
We have 2 more questions. Jeremy
Yes, thank you.
Siegel
Two more
and
questions. Just 2 more questions. Jeremy's going.
Oh, she's our doctor.
Yeah, of course.
Very nice.
She's amazing.
He's sending regards to somebody that he knows.
You mentioned that before you went to Knesset, you didn't know what Knesset was, and I assume, similar to the earlier question, that your education was within the Haredi system as against the secular system. In other words, you may not have had the same introduction to civics, perhaps constitutional law, etc., international law, history, geography, but you would have learned all sorts of other things that a secular Israeli would have no idea about. Just chesed, decency, values, and of course the intellectual rigor. So could you reflect a little bit about how your education put you in a different position, disadvantages and advantages that you
What Professor Rose?
Should I repeat the question? It's a question of education. Rivka said that when she came to the Knesset, she really wasn't prepared for it. She didn't really understand the ins and outs of the Knesset. Now she does, but at the time she didn't, and Jeremy is reflecting on her unique, observant Jewish education. How did her observant Jewish education aid or challenge her in her work in the Knesset?
So that's true. I didn't learn civics and I didn't learn public policy, and I knew English because my parents were English speakers, but so it was a challenge. But I catched up pretty fast. Like, it took me a few weeks and I catched up. Then when I was a bit, when I was maybe 28, I went to university and I had 2 degrees in computing and computer science, and my PhD is in public policy. So I catched up, but it was a challenge in the beginning. But you are true, you're right, that some things I learned and other people didn't learn, like MS and sticking to my values and keeping someone else's money and his time. Like some colleagues of mine will go to smoke for an hour in the middle of working, or eating, go out to eat for 2 hours. I won't do that because I felt it's
stealing.
Getting paid for that time.
Someone else's money. So it was a give and take.
And Toby last.
Final question, Toby.
Thank you for coming here and giving us insight
Thank
into what's going on. My question is, do you think Bibi will finish the job in Gaza?
The
Halavai.
question is, do you think that Bibi Netanyahu will finish the job in Gaza, or will it be like all the other wars of recent state of Israel that end off half finished?
That's a hard question because our porch was shaking for 2 years. And the noise from Gaza was very hard. And the children, as I said, they didn't go to sleep in their beds for 2 years, just were sleeping with us. So on one hand, we were very happy when our soldiers came back home, and it was like a relief. For the first time, we got a whole night sleeping, and the children, they didn't believe in the beginning. They thought we are saying again, there will be no more sirens. They didn't believe us, but then they started to believe. So on one hand, I don't want the war to start again, but I understand what you say, and I understand that we live very close to terrorists and very dangerous terrorists, and I know what happened on October 7th, and I understand we have to erase them from the land. So I don't know if he will go back into Gaza. It's not easy in the Israeli environment, in the Israeli Knesset. Half of the Knesset wants him to go back and finish the job, as you say, and some people understand. We're not sure if the way to finish it is again with war, or I don't know. I don't know what I can't even know what I want should happen.
Wow, I just want to conclude with a closing thought here, that just in the Torah portion recently we learned that the Jewish people are blessed to be like the stars of the sky. Something unusual about the stars of the sky is that their light far outshines their own capacity, their own volume. They're able to illuminate the space which is far disproportionate from their own actual space that they occupy. And that's the blessing, one of the blessings to the Jewish people, that even though we might be small in quantity, our impact is so far beyond our reach. Look at what we've witnessed here tonight. This extraordinary relationship between Israel and the United States of America. Just process that for a moment. Israel, tiny, and the United States of America, which is like 10,000 times larger. And we're talking like equals. We're engaging over Iran, we're engaging over Venezuela, we're engaging over other places. Is this not a modern day miracle, how today we are able to run a country led by extraordinary people like Rivka Ravitz, to be able to be a giant amongst our peers, to be able to be head and shoulders above the rest of the nations of the world in so many extraordinary areas, that we truly are a light unto the nations, we truly are an inspiration to the nations. And what a message we can draw from Rivka, who is able to stand so strong, not to capitulate, not to give up on her values, but like Hannah said, that when we respect ourselves, that's when the nations of the world respect us, and when God forbid we don't, that's when they don't respect us at all. I'd like to ask you, Rivka, if you could just give us a closing statement, something, please go, a message you want us to take home with us.
A lot of times people ask me how. How do you do it? How do you manage? How do you manage your schedule? How do you manage your day? How do you... So I try to remember to say thank you to the one and the only one. Nothing is understood. He doesn't owe me nothing. I have a beautiful family. I have a beautiful job, and I'm a happy woman. So I try to stop 3 times a day and just say thank you. Each one has something to say thank you about. If you have a brother, if you have a sister, if you have children, if you have friends. And that reminds me of the ancient idiom saying that there was a person that was complaining he doesn't have shoes until he met someone that didn't have a leg. So we have legs and we have shoes, and we could go on, and we could believe that we could get anywhere and achieve any goal you want to achieve. So just remember to say thank you, and that will give you a lot of koach.
Ladies and gentlemen, please give a round of applause to Rivka Ravitz,
Thank you so
a beautiful representative of our nation.
Thank
Please
you.
remember,
That was
next Friday
fantastic.
night we're having a special
Stay here. I
guest
want to take
here.
a quick